Dear Elijah and Lena, this is going to be something of a long video. I'm trying to not let it get too long, like longer than 10 minutes or something like that, but something to really, to think about. So, dear Elijah, dear Elena, can you date a, Elijah, can you date a white girl? Elena, can you date a white boy? And so basically, in this video, I'm going to try to have you all think about whether or not, daddy or, I partially speak for your mother on this, that how daddy or mommy may feel about you dating outside of your race. Okay. Now, the easy answer is, does daddy care about you dating outside of your race? I don't care. That's the easy part. But the reasons behind it is a little more complex. Now, I'm going to tell you that growing up, back in the day, when Daddy was growing up, if you would ever talk to both your grandmothers, they would tell you HE to the double hockey sticks to the gnaw. You better have not ever thought about dating a Caucasian person. For me, I better not be interested in a Caucasian girl. And now, before somebody would say, well, your parents your mothers must have been, racist or something like that. I've never known either of my mothers to really be racist. I think we all have some prejudices, and they showed their prejudice. But let me give the reasons why. Okay, these are two women, dark-skinned African-American women that grew up in the South. Okay, they came up in the 60s. Okay, so a lot of African-American people in this country, United States of America, grew up, during the time period of, like let's say when TVs and stuff started coming into more homes and stuff like that. I think probably more in the 60s or 50s or 60s. And obviously there's a huge racial history issue in our country. I'm not going to go through all that right now. That's multiple videos. I'm not going to deal with that right now. When they were coming up, one, you didn't have as many African American people, especially with dark skin, on television. In some cases, not even light skin, but you definitely didn't have as many dark skin. Okay, more popular today in 2020s. The last few years, more people, kind of doing more with their natural hair. Some people doing more dreadlocks and locking up their hair and stuff like that. It's not my style, but that's kind of what more people are doing because they're trying to get more into their, kind of more Afrocentric roots, if you will. So anyway, my point being is that so besides not having, a lot of African American people on TV that they can kind of look up to and see that African American people are beautiful too. Okay, and this is just dealing with Caucasian people. These two also were dark-skinned women, and back in the days they were growing up, so this has been the 60s, 70s, early 80s. Sometimes we as African American people would put more emphasis on the lighter skin you were, which was really more lighter skin, the closer you were to being Caucasian, I guess, and the straighter your hair, that was considered more beautiful. And even in some cases with African American women, if you didn't have a certain body type, right? So because of not necessarily all, I'm not gonna put the blame completely on rap music, but partially because of rap music, when they started doing these videos and you had the most curvaceous, curvy women on there. So then if if African American girl didn't have that body type, she might get made fun of or a lot of flack, catch a lot of flack for it and stuff like that. So these were, some things that might have played into their mind back then. So when they had me raising an African American male up in the 80s and 90s, it was like there's nothing wrong with a dark skinned African American girl. There's nothing wrong with an African American girl. She's lighter skinned or brown, or whatever, what have you. So that was one of those things that they made a big deal. Both of them made a big deal on mine. Sometimes they would say it in more aggressive ways I won't say it on here. With anybody who was raised with an African American mother who was like really serious about you dating your own, you probably know what I'm talking about. You better not ever let me catch you dating a quote unquote a white girl, or there's gonna be problems. I think my mother even threatened to kill me one time. my biological mother. And she loves me, so I know she wouldn't, but she would have had a problem. So anyway, my point being is that your father grew up in the kind of atmosphere where I grew up in Alabama, Maryland, and Georgia. Especially when I grew up in Maryland, I was in middle school. I was in a culture, and it was predominantly Caucasian people, but it was also more mixture. Right, it was a mixture of Caucasian people, African American people, and Hispanic people, and Asian people. But it was more, obviously we're in a country where it's 300 something plus, or 200 something. I forget how many million Caucasian people, but it's more than African American people, obviously. Matter of fact, we're not even the highest group in the country anymore. So anyway, the minority wise. So anyway, my point being is that having that in the mindset, as an African American woman, you don't want your son to then grow up kind of like dismissing African American women because they don't look beautiful, or we don't have as many great examples on television of how an African American woman is also the standard of beauty, right? This is before the Beyoncés and before the Lauryn Hills. Lauryn Hill came out in '98 actually, but multiple people. So anyway, okay, so there's that, right? So you have two, my mother, my second mother, African American women who had that kind of mindset or different issues with it. Because their mothers also would have raised them similarly. Hey, you don't need to date. There's nothing wrong with having an African American man, right? A strong African American man. Okay. Then another thing I never forget, though, what I wanted to add to is that, but this is what I was going to say. The thing I wanted to add to, although I don't mind you dating outside of your race, here are some things I want you to think about. If you do decide to date outside of your race, I don't want you to do it for these reasons. Okay. Starting one is another anecdote. When I was also a kid, I don't know if I'll ever forget this. This is one of my surrogate mothers, my mama Vondra. So she used to teach our Sunday school class in my grandmother's church in West Georgia. And so I'll never forget, I'm not sure if something happened at the school she was teaching in or what, but whatever school she was in, she taught some kids, and there was some other African American kids, and a lot of those kids in that area, they were around other, predominantly Caucasian folks. I'm not sure if they had great examples of African American women or men or whatever or what have you, but because like I said, a lot of times I see things as more of a cultural thing instead of just racial. But I digress. So she asked one guy, well, why do y'all tend to date these Caucasian girls more than you date African American girls? And I never forget, one guy said something. I remember thinking that one, it was ignorant, but I remember two, I was thinking, my man, why would you say that like out loud? You don't tell a quote unquote. I don't usually use the word black woman too much, but you wouldn't. Why would you say that to a black woman back then? I would say, why would you say this to an African American woman? And he said something to the effect of, black girls and black women, man, y'all got too much attitude. Y'all trying to tell us what to do, and we just want the white girl. White girls are simple. They just do what we tell them to do, stuff like that. And like I said, I thought that was ignorant because I've met African American girls and African American women that are different across the board. Same with Caucasian people. You wouldn't go to every Caucasian girl and just say, oh, okay, well, they gonna do what I tell them to do, so therefore I'm gonna date these kind of women. And I thought that was just ignorant, but I was like, my man, what are you doing? Like, why would you say that out loud? So anyway, try to make this quick before it hits 10 minutes. And so, she was like, boy, what's wrong with you? And she, I don't think she got too mad, but she was just like, she was disappointed. But so that would be my thing I would tell my son especially, and my daughter. Don't, quote unquote, date outside of your race because you have this, thinking that, well, all white people are like this. If you date a Hispanic person, all Hispanic people are like this. If you date a Asian person, all Asian people are like this. If you date other African American people or and marry another African American person, all African American people are like this. That's not the case. First and foremost, because faith and religion is very big to me and your mother. So we want you all to date, really for those purposes. That as a person of faith, they have good morals, loving, all that kind of stuff. So don't be, inundated by the skin color and thinking that only one race, only one skin color, only one hair type, whatever looks beautiful. At the same time, don't look at us, African American people, and think, oh, we don't look beautiful. That's a no-no. I was raised with African American people that thought of ourselves as beautiful, intelligent, skin color, darker you are, beautiful, lighter you are, beautiful. My African brothers and sisters, who are as dark as I am or even darker, just as beautiful too. So it's okay to love and date somebody outside your race, but don't let your reasons be based on ignorance and foolishness and hearsay and things that are just untrue. Always, I'm gonna say always, but try to do your best. Like I said, to have standards. Like I said, I linked to it in another video. Have standards, okay, for when you're dating. Okay, so that person can know what your standards are. But at the same time, try to be, understanding to people when they come, at you a little differently. But don't at the same time dismiss your own skin color in order to date other skin colors. Something to think about.